That's not the best grind in the world.
Does he use that to make his hat?
That's what he uses in his hats. Well, it works great, and that's what Frank and I use to finish it. Something similar to that. Well, I don't know if Frank's got his backside convex yet.
I always understood the convex was for the ability to hone easily.
I don't think it matters. Well,
Because you touch your hone on both ends in the middle part.
Well, I mean, this is a straight bevel. I can hone it just as easily as if it was convex, probably easier. If it's convex, you might have a tendency to roll it over on the edge. You're talking concave. Yeah, hollow ground, yeah.
Yeah, hollow.
Well, the very tip is hollow ground.
Right.
But the max ground out of the way so you get into a tight spot. All right.
So, retell us about where you're talking about that gap being round and convex.
Oh. It's probably easier to see on this guy. Oh, the gouge, it's back behind the edge. It's a little relief behind the bevel.
Relief?
Behind the bevel, yeah.
Your cutting bevel is still...
My cutting bevel is still hollow ground and flat. Because of the shortness of the bevel, it's pretty close to flat. But most of the time when you come off the wheel, your bevel's going to be a little bit hollow ground or kind of concave. And so if I were to hone this, you'd see it was right at the tip and right at the back. And not in between, so it's slightly hollow ground. And the shorter that bevel, the flatter it's going to be. And the bigger the wheel, the flatter it's going to be. But I put a relief on the back of that bevel by grinding convex. It gets complicated when you have people that know what they're talking about in classes. Then I got to be more specific, and then I give you more information you can already handle, which I've already done probably. We normally break about 8. I think I'm probably a good point. I got a lot to go, but that's the second half. And I like these collets that we have. I made my own handle out of Brazilian cherry.
This gives you less with them.
And sometimes I have double-edged gouge. I think we'll go ahead and take a break now. I can just use the other stuff.
All right, let's take a break.
I would use my side round gouge, and if I were going to do a bowl shape, instead of trying to turn this to a cylinder, I would already go ahead and start rounding it over.
Too much talk.
Rest at an angle. And I'm going to have the fluid at about 45 degrees, and I'm just going to run it. The bevel is going to be parallel to the tool rest. Once again, my thumb's going to be on the handle, and I'm going to kind of pull the tool across with my left hand. And because I'm a spindle turner and I'm used to moving my body, I'm also going to roll my hips as I do this. And I must remember I'm working on a small lathe. Let's take too heavy a cut for the lathe. A minute there. We're also not clamped down on the tool rest. But I have a fluid at about 45 degrees. My left hand's only job is to put pressure down on the tool rest and help guide the tool. I don't want any pressure on the bevel. Usually what I do is I touch the heel first and bring it around and find the cut, and then I just glide along the bevel. If I put pressure on the bevel, or I don't do it, but I end up getting a lot of vibration. I also burnish it, create a lot of heat, but it's just a lot more work for me. If I just set the tool, find the bevel contact, put pressure down on the tool rest, and just glide along the surface. No work at all for me. And I'm cutting at the very tip of the bottom wing. I don't want this upper wing to touch at all, otherwise it will run over and give me an extra catch. And as I come around, I bring that handle around. And it's just like rolling a bead. I get a lot of students who all they want to do is turn bowls, but I want to start them out on a feed and coast stick, because a bead is an outside of the bowl. It's just a bowl, outside of the bowl is bead turned sideways. So it's the same cuts, same methods. The only problem is when I'm doing a bowl, my handle has to be way over here, and my arms away from my body, so I can't use my body as much as can when I'm doing spindle work, so it's a little more difficult. And that's why they have short-bit roll lays, so that you can actually stand over here and keep your body in contact with the tool and just roll your hips, and you get a really nice, smooth, flowing curve. What happens when people get the curve change is because when I bring this handle around, right about here, I'm changing my center of balance, and I might bring the tool around too fast or not fast enough, and I change the curve. So if you're able to just roll your hips with a curve like I can with spindle work, I get a nice, smooth, flowing curve. That's pretty much how I do it. If I were wanting to put in a little detail here, never move the tool rest of the lathe on. A lot of times, I was saying I like that curve to come around. Well, when I'm pulling it, it's hard to get far enough over to get that perfect curve. And we want support when we're cutting, and this is how I get support. If I cut the other way, there's not support, and the fibers will shred out. But to put that curve in there, for me, it's easier to start over here, cutting the wrong, not the best direction, and I can pull that curve in. I'm not really flat on my thing here. So it's easier for me to pull that curve around that way. Once again, I'm rolling my hips to put that curve in there just like I would with a spindle. It's really comfortable for me. And I brought that curve around. Now if I want to put a foot in there to mount it, I can just cut in like that. I'm not really going to reverse cut it or anything. Let's see where that fancy side round gouge, the finishing gouge went. Is one of my bowl gouges still out there somewhere?
Yeah, right here. With the wing?
Yeah, with the wing. Normally I would finish up. Never walk away with a lathe running either. That's bad form. I go ahead and finish it with my little finishing ground gouge, taking a light cut. Not the heavy cut that I'm doing, but I can get a real fine cut with this. Glide along the surface and I get a really nice smooth cut. The speed you go across this surface is in relation to how fast it's spinning. If I pull this tool off or across this work real fast, I get a lot of torn grain. And that little wing is in there so I can go in there and cut my foot in and not have to switch tools. Now I haven't gotten to this tool yet, but might as well show you this. This is a 3/8" steel. It's ground like a skew. And it works great. Lay it on its side, use it as a scraper to go right up in there against that foot. And I needed to hone this, but you can see I can get curls coming off. I can get a nice clean cut right up against that foot. And hopefully, there's very little torn grain in there.
That wasn't a scrape, was it?
This is a scraping cut. I had the skew in a scraping position.
Straight,
Yeah, this is a scraping cut. Yeah. It was like horizontal well actually it's tilted down a little bit. And normally I'd hone this guy first to get a really nice good edge on it. But you can see how it's getting curls coming off. And this is actually a negative rate scraper.
How fast is the lathe turning, more or less?
Right now this piece is off balance, so it's probably running about 800 RPMs. 1200. It's a small piece, I can go 1200. Now to do the inside, once again, I would just go ahead and I would face it off first so I have a flat surface here to start my cut. And I want the height of the tool rest at a height so that the tool went to the center. So I'm way too high. So the tool horizontal goes right to the center. And I would face it off. Once again, foot's got 45 degrees. Bevel's going to be perpendicular to the lathe. I'm going to touch the heel first, bring it around, there's the cut, and I just slide across the surface. My only pressure is down onto the tool rest. My force is pointing right down into there. And I just glide across that surface. And with a spindle gouge on a end grain turning, you get a nice smooth finish. Not even have to sand it. But I like to face off the top of my bowl or my platter so that I have an even surface when I try to dive into the hollow. There's several ways to hollow. Generally, you're going to want to start at the inside and work your way out. And you can rest it on the bevel and just let it sit there. Flute's going to be in a closed, semi-closed position, about 3 o'clock, 2:30. And I'll just bring that tool around until it cuts a little groove in there, and that gives me bevel support. And then I can go my dress is, we have a set screw and pullers. I'll just do a little less aggressive. And when I come in here, this is just like doing a cove cut. So another way to do it is I'm just going to be very aggressive and stick the tip in there and let it dig its own hole. And once I've got it in there enough to bevel contact, then I can roll it open and then cut it out. Need to loose up here.
I think it broke the lathe.
Could be the lathe because everything seems tight. So, anyway, we'll just live with it. Normally at home I'd search it out and find out, but it might be because I'm not really sitting down here. There's two different methods to hog it out too. Mike Mahoney uses a rowing method where the tool stays horizontal and he just goes in there. And I can't do it on this little lathe.
The motor loose and pulling on the belt?
Right, that's what it sounds like.
I'm thinking I'm not going to take the set screw. Maybe the belt will loose. But you just go in and start the cut. And he just hogged that wood out. And he could go quicker on a bigger lathe, and with green wood, this is dry wood. The problem with that cut is you don't get to practice your outside shape. The way the baddies do it, I'm going to get back to sharpening in just a second. The baddies will start here and kind of come up and over in a nice little arc and kind of slice their way through. And every cut's going to be practicing that last cut. It's a slower method, which will be a lot more practice. Still starts out the same. You either just start with the bevel sitting there and just bring the tool around, and I'll drop my handle. Didn't get in deep enough. Drop the handle, roll the flute open, and I'll just roll it on around and aim for the center. It's a much nicer cut, much gentler, less aggressive. I kind of enjoy it. And then for my finish cuts on there, I'd again go to my traditional ground gouge. And I'm cutting at the very tip, and the wing away from me. And normally I would take a much finer cut, just to kind of clean it up. A nice gentle cut, just to make it nice and smooth.
Now, you're not trying to put, where's your tenon? On the bottom of it?
The tenon is going to be here. I'm not really turning the real bowl. I was showing outside cut, inside cut. Tenon's in the material for what we're doing right now.
Okay, so
I just showed how this
if-
wing would